All right, here we go with this week's vocabulary lesson 15 video notes. Make sure that you use your vocab Cornell notes to write down the word, the definition, the part of speech the word is, as well as any examples that I come up with or maybe any that you come up with on your own. All right, here we go. The first word is ineffectual. Part of speech is an adjective, and the definition is unable to bring about a desired result, inadequate. So the example that I have is a boxer. So how this would be ineffectual is that the punches, he wasn't able to knock the guy out. Okay, so the desired result didn't happen. His punches were inadequate. He wasn't able to knock the guy out. All right, ineffectual. Next one is inertia. Part of speech is a noun. Definition is a tendency not to move, act, or change. Okay, so some examples that I have here. Government. Government inertia. A lot of times, you might hear adults, people complain. You might talk about this in civics class. How government doesn't change. It doesn't move. When state governments they don't approve budgets, and then it has to go into extra sessions and things don't happen on time and things like that. So that's one example. Another example of inertia is time. Time, sometimes it seems like time isn't moving. Time is going slow. Never in my English class, of course, but in other classes it might seem like time isn't moving. It's inertia. Again, it's not changing. Next word is infallible. Part of speech is an adjective. Definition is free from error, absolutely reliable. Okay, so some things that are infallible is just the fact of life and death. We're all born, and we all know that at some point we're going to die. And unfortunately, we don't want to get too morbid here, but it's the fact of life. It's infallible. Okay, it's absolutely reliable, unless they come up with some sort of cryogenic thing where they keep us alive, and I don't know. Another example would be our news. We expect the news that we see on TV, the news that we get on the internet, the news that we read in newspapers to be infallible, that it should be free from error, that it should be reliable. Does this happen? Yeah, most of the time it does happen. Do they make mistakes? Absolutely. But we, as people that watch and keep up on the news, we expect these news agencies like NBC, CNN, and so forth to be infallible, that they should be reliable. Next word is influx. This is a noun. Definition is a flowing in, as in people or things. So one example would be like a flood, an area or town that gets flooded. It's an influx of water, a flowing in of water. Okay, another example obviously would be a refugee situation. We're seeing a lot of this over in Syria, over in the Middle East, areas of the world that are in that have big problems going on, like there in Africa, and we're seeing refugee areas are an influx of people. Next word is inhibition. This is a noun. Definition is the act of holding back an inner belief, feeling, or force that checks one's actions, thoughts, or feelings. Restraint. So inhibition is, we all have this, is sometimes it keeps us from acting absolutely insane, like this guy right there. Okay? Our inhibition, yeah, it keeps us from, it keeps us restrained. And so when we lose, if you ever hear the saying or hear this, when you lose your inhibition, you let go and you do things that are out of character or out of normalcy for you. Another example is it's like a weight is being lifted off your shoulder. You lose your inhibition and you do something that's totally not you. Next word is innate. This is an adjective. The definition is inborn. Okay, so a best way to look at this word and an example to get in your head is a person like Michael Jordan. In my opinion, the greatest basketball player that has ever played the game, and it'll I don't care if there's LeBron lovers out there. MJ is the best. But he has this innate ability. Okay, it's inborn in him to be at the level he was at, to be as great as he was. Same with Tom Brady. I think he's the greatest quarterback ever. You can't deny him winning, five Super Bowls, but it was inborn in him. The qualities and the things that make him as good as he is. Sure, both of these athletes worked really hard at what they did, but they had something in them. Okay, you could also look at other people like Einstein, Albert Einstein. Look at Beethoven. Beethoven created great music. Obviously, something that he worked at, but it was something that was innate. He had this innate ability to do what he did. Innovation is the next word. This is a noun. Definition: a new way to do something, something new. A light bulb is an innovation. Okay, obviously when this came out, this was a big deal. It gave us light. Another example would be an artificial heart. That's a picture of an artificial heart. These are innovations. We could go down the line: the iPhone, the iPad. Just there's hundreds of thousands of innovations that have come up. It's just a new way of doing something, or something that's new, that's taking something that's old and giving it a new look, a new way of using it. You look at that picture of just a regular old light bulb. Well, now you have light bulbs that last a lot longer. So it's just changing something or something new. Insipid. This is an adjective. Definition is flavorless, dull or unexciting, lifeless. There is just a plain old bowl of white rice. I kind of think this stuff is pretty much flavorless, dull, or unexciting. So you have to add things to it, like maybe sweet and sour chicken, or stir fry, or whatever, what have you. But you got to add something to just regular white rice to make it a little less dull or unexciting. Another example would be like a meeting. So obviously in this meeting, it is lifeless. It is an insipid meeting. Everybody's laying there sleeping and their heads are down. Sometimes, unfortunately, students, you get tired and you put your head down. Maybe that day that class is insipid. It's dull or exciting. Of course, never in Mr. Gunderson's 10th grade English class, but in your other classes I can understand where that class might be insipid and you might put your head down and want to fall asleep, but you can't. You got to sit up and try to pay attention. All right, next word is insolence. This is a noun. Definition: quality or instance of being insulting and disrespectful, impudence. Now, while laying your head down on your desk and sleeping in a class would be an example of insolence. Here's another example. This guy, giving you the loser sign on his forehead and sticking his tongue out at you is an example of someone being insulting and disrespectful. You may want to punch that guy right in his nose. But another example is the good old-fashioned teenage eye roll. Parents in the background looking on disapprovingly, teenage girl rolling her eyes. These are both examples of insolence. Next word is intermittent. Part of speech is that it's an adjective. Definition: stopping and starting with pauses between, occurring at irregular intervals. Irregular. So one of the best examples I can think of is on a car is you have your windshield wipers that you can set at intermittent. You can set it at different intervals for them to go back and forth to wipe the snow or rain off. You can have them go fast, you can have them go slower, you can change, you can have pauses between when the wipers go. Another example would be Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi can be intermittent. It can be hit or miss depending on strength of signal or maybe you're in a remote area and you look at and you don't have very good coverage on your cell phone. So the Wi-Fi could be intermittent. You're getting it at irregular intervals. Those are your vocabulary lesson 15 words.